Welcome today to HR Recruit's webinar about coaching to shine. My name is Jo Thompson and I'm a consultant for HR Recruit. I'm joined today by Sally Chapman from Shine Coaching. She's going to be sharing her knowledge and experience about her coaching model, Shine. I'm now going to hand you over to Sally, who will introduce herself and start the webinar. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Afternoon. Lovely that you can join me on this Tuesday afternoon. Can everybody hear and see me? I don't know if there's any thumbs up or anything or nods in the chat or something like that. Hopefully you can all hear me. So thank you to Jo and to HR Recruit for giving me the time to speak with you today. Really appreciate it. Some of you may know me. So I am Sally Chapman of Shine Coaching, and this workshop is all about sharing my coaching to shine model with you. This is only the third time me doing it. So I think I first presented it in July at a coaching summit, and I've done another small workshop since then. So in terms of presenting it, it's still quite new to me, and a few nerves. So I've got some slides that I'd like to share, and I'll do that in a moment. I find that sometimes having that visual aid tends to help me with, if you're introducing a new model or a new tool and you've got questions on there, it sometimes helps embed that tool and also help answer those questions. So as much as I'd love everyone to go around the room and say hello, I don't think technology allows for that in a webinar, and introduce themselves, and we've only got an hour. So what would be great is if you could pop in the chat, just where you're zooming in from today, just say hi. That would be really nice. And then I'll start the screen share and start going. Okay, right, well, welcome. Thank you, everybody. So I don't know if is the chat being used, Jo? Is that all okay?
Yeah, nobody's put anything in yet.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so what would be really good is to know, kind of get a little bit of a feel in terms of what has brought you here. So what's going to make the next hour worthwhile? You've given up an hour of your time to come and see me. So what's going to make the next hour for you worthwhile? And then I'm hopefully, if technology allows, we're going to do a little poll after maybe we've sort of popped something in the chat. And the poll is around how familiar you are with coaching, just so I can get a sense of where everybody is with that. Okay. Just going to see if I can try and see the chat. I don't know if I can.
I'm just wondering if there's a problem with the chat, Sally. I'm wondering if there's a problem with it. Mind you used it before, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
I'm wondering whether it's not been enabled or something when it's been set up, possibly.
Okay, all right, that's great. Okay, so what? Let's. Are you able to put the poll up, Jo? As I've got my shared screen, I haven't got access to that. Okay, brilliant. So I'm just putting a poll up here, and just about how familiar you are with coaching. So as this webinar is hosted by HR Recruit, I'm anticipating that many of you might be in the HR profession, or you might be connected to it in some way. So you might coach informally in your role, or it might be part of your role within HR. You could already be a practicing coach, or perhaps training to be a coach. Thinking about coaching, have been coached before, looking for a coach, or kind of just love learning and couldn't resist a free CPD opportunity. So if this is your first time in a coaching environment, I've got a little sign saying, it's only me and you that can't vote. Sorry, Jo. I was just noticing down the bottom. So hopefully everyone else can vote. So if you are new to coaching and this is the first time sort of around, just pop in new. If you are really familiar with coaching, you've got some experience with coaching, put confident. And then if you're somewhere in between, maybe put some idea. I'm not sure. Are people able to vote, Jo?
Yeah, people are voting, yeah.
Okay, that's fab. Okay, fabulous.
So at the moment, we've got 56%, that's the top, on some idea of coaching. 33% are new to coaching and 12% are confident.
Brilliant. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you. That's just hopefully going to make me able to present this to you in a sort of a way that's meaningful to everybody. So, and Joe has kindly offered to look after the chat for me, but I don't know. Thanks for doing that, Joe.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's working.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. So we don't know if it's working, but we're going to keep going and brave on through the sort of like technology blips. Okay, so very briefly, a little bit about me. So I, for those that don't know me, I founded Shine Coaching last summer. So the official launch date was the 1st of July 2021. So just over a year, about 16 months ago now. And prior to coaching, I predominantly worked in HR roles up to a senior management level for about 12 years. And that was a profession that I fell into like so many other people do. But before being in the world of HR, I worked in a variety of roles, as you can see. So I was a pub landlady, I was a self-employed gardener, and I was even in the early days, I started off as a pig farmer. So I've had quite an eclectic background and really squiggly career into coaching. So I believe it's these experiences working within many different industries, sectors, roles that has given me the grounding, the confidence and ability to train and now work as a coach. I'm at ease working with all people, all levels. I love finding out what makes people tick, what their dreams are, what their goals are, what they want to shine at, basically. And I think I've always coached informally without realizing it, like many of you might do within your HR roles. But it wasn't until being part of a couple of great coaching workshops with an executive team that I was part of in one of my HR roles that the coaching bug really got me. So I made the decision to leave HR in July 2020. I did some work with a coach myself, and then I went on to do my ILM exec level 7 coaching within Good Company. And that was just an amazing experience. I had learned so much and I'm still learning now. So I absolutely love coaching. And because of my HR background, I mainly work with HR professionals on a one-to-one or group basis. I also collaborate with another coach, Kate, in our collaboration of Rebel and Shine. So that kind of makes HR my niche. But saying that, a lot of my clients have been outside of the profession, which I think goes back to that versatility bit around my background, although I haven't had any farmers actually just yet. So, but you never know, there might be time. Okay, so what is this session all about? So you may or may not have your own versions of coaching, which in a way is right, because it's a really personal thing. It's really individual. To me, coaching is all about that relationship, the relationship with the person, the client and the coach. You want to get to know where the person is now and where they want to move to in the future. And we can talk about things like goals, values, limiting beliefs. So they're all sort of coachy terms. But to me, at the end of the day, I believe it is getting down to the core of what success, happiness and importance is to that person. So kind of what makes them shine. And that's what this session is about. It's about finding out how to shine at our best, whatever or wherever that might be. So it's a really simple, versatile model, and it can be used either on a daily or a weekly basis for a long-term project or goal even. It's really entirely up to you. So as with most things, Coaching to Shine started with me. Towards the end of my HR career, I realized I was holding on to this really outdated version of what success looked like to me. I'd had this plan and this goal in my head that I was going to climb the corporate ladder and become this awesome HR director. And it wasn't until I started to question myself and have coaching that I became very aware that this version of success that I was holding on to wasn't really making me that happy and wasn't really living in line with my values anymore. So if I fast forward to the autumn of last year, and I was working with coaching clients myself, I noticed I was asking similar questions to them. I'd be saying, what does success look like to you? And I kept working on my coaching model. And then I showcased, as I mentioned it at the coaching summit in July this year. I had some really great feedback. So I just wanted to keep sharing it, which is hence why I kind of said to Joe, can I share it here today? So in its most basic form, coaching is a conversation. It's a powerful conversation between two people, the coach and the client. Yet when you have the right questions and mindset, it is possible to coach yourself. So Coaching to Shine is just that. It is a set of questions that you can use in a coaching conversation with yourself, or as a coach with a client, or even as a manager with one of your team. So it can be used in any profession or in your personal life. It can be used by coaches like me with clients or individuals to use as a guide and coach themselves. So it's all about giving the person, the coachee, the tools, the perspective and the strategies so they can coach themselves, which is what the end goal of coaching is all about. You want to be able to coach yourself. So it would be really good if you've all brought something with you. I can't see any faces and we haven't got any chat. But I hope that you've got an idea in mind. Maybe it's a goal or a project, or even just how you want your day to go. So it's something that you can work through as we work through the model together, with the aim that you're going to take away an action or two at the end of it. If you haven't got anything, don't worry. Hopefully something will come up through, something will be prompted with some of the questions. And if you've got a pen and paper next to you, that would be really good, because then you can just jot down some of the things, the thoughts that you're having as you go. And I'm going to be talking through my own example, which is going to give you some idea on how the model works. And you don't have to take any notes of the questions. Joe's going to share my slide deck with everybody at the end. And there's also some information on the last slide about how to get a PDF copy of my guide, a free download copy of my guide, as well as an exciting new way to access the Shine model. So I was going to ask if there's any questions at this point, but I don't think we can see any questions, can we, Joe? I've got some time set aside at the end for questions, and I don't know if we can maybe stop and enable the chat somehow, but we'll see how we go. Hopefully we might be able to manage that. I'm going to go through the tool relatively quickly, just given the time we've got today. But as I said, you can get hold of more information and then you can go through it in your own time. And then there's also an opportunity to book a complimentary one-to-one with me if you want to at the end of this. Okay, so let's just talk through it. As the previous slide showed, there are 5 parts to Shine that correspond with each of the first letters of the word. So success, S for success, H for happiness, I for important, N for next steps, and E for energy. And each of these parts has a focus question, which is what you can see here. So what does success look like to you? How does this make you happy? Why is it important to you? What are your next steps? And how much energy do you have for it? If we go on to that first slide and start with success, that first strand. So this is all about defining what success looks like for you. So why is that important? Well, there's a few reasons. So when we have clarity on what success looks like, we're more likely to be able to get it done and know when we've achieved it. Without clarity, our brain tends to overthink, and then it doesn't know what to focus on. So clarity is basically sending messages on our brain on what's important to us and where we need to put our focus. So if I digress for a little moment on the overthinking, most of us overthink. Believe it or not, we think hundreds of thousands of thoughts every single day, and an 80% of those are negative, and a staggering 90% of those are repeated thoughts. So basically the ones that we've just had keep going over and over and over again in our heads. So we tend to overthink when we have a lack of clarity. So when we're not sure of a situation, we're not sure of a person, we're not sure of some feelings we've got, or it might just be the next steps that we need to take. So to me, overthinking feels like lots of other voices in your head, particularly those 80% of those negative ones, which sound like saying, oh, you can't do that. That's too hard. You're not clever enough. You don't have enough time. You don't know where to start. Those voices, those nagging little voices going on in your head. So I like to think of these voices as living rent-free in our heads. So basically they're taking up valuable space and not actually adding any value at all. So when we have clarity on something, we can see what success looks like, how it brings us happiness, why we're doing what we're doing, and what we need to do to get it done. So we also get to define our own success scale. So when we own something, we're much more likely to want to do it. For example, you might go into work and your manager will have an idea what a successful outcome for your day is, or the project that you're working on, but that's their definition of success. So what I'm encouraging you to do is set your own success scale. So something that you have control over and you can make happen. So whether we lead a team or not, or if we're a parent, we lead our children, one thing for sure is that we can be and are all leaders of ourselves. So understanding how to lead yourself, to know what you have control over, to give yourself clarity about what you're doing and want to achieve is really important. And finally, it's worth mentioning here how we view our success for ourselves changes over time. Like I said, with my outdated version of success of wanting to become this awesome HRD. And it's also okay to look back and use previous successes, experiences, and failures as motivation factors. But not if we do that sort of compare and despair. You know, we look back and say, oh, I wish I was like that now. I wish I could do that again. So being able to define our success now and see what success looks like is when we take control and become leaders of ourselves. So yes, success might have looked like that for me then, but now I'm choosing for it to look like this now. So I think the chat is working. I can see some numbers pinging up. So sorry.
It is. It's
sorry if I got a bit distracted then, because I suddenly saw it popping up. So everybody, I'm so chuffed that the chat's working. So what does success look like for you? So what is it that you're striving for? What do you want to achieve? Now, like I said, this could be something very much in the moment. It could be just how you want your day to go, how you want to feel at the end of the day, or it could be a longer term project or goal that you're working on. You get to choose. So you get to choose your own success scale. So when I asked one of my clients this, her reply was finishing work at 5 p.m, just shutting the laptop, shutting it closed, because previously she'd let her boundaries slip, which had had such a big impact on her. So this is a really clear definition of success for her. So if you'd like to just jot down, if you've got, or getting in your head, so define your success, put it into a sentence and jot it down next to you. Is there anything I need to know in the chat, Jo?
No.
Okay, fab. I'm going to move it, hopefully, to my other screen. No, I'm not going to move it to my other screen. I'm going to close it because I can't, otherwise it blocks everyone else's screen. Sorry. Okay. So has anybody shared anything in the chat there? So
yeah, Amy's just said that she'd like to apply coaching practices not only to herself personally and professionally to be more efficient and effective, but also to get the most from the managers that she works with.
Brilliant. Okay, that's great. Thanks, Amy. And that's really helpful, because what we can do here is some of these coaching questions, hopefully you'll be able to take some of these coaching questions away with you, apply them to yourself, and also share them with managers, and also use them in your conversations with managers as well. So if they come to you and they say, oh, you know, I don't know how to do X, Y, or Z with this member of my team, you could say, well, what does success look like to you? What does success look like for your team? So you can start using some of these questions with your manager. So let me share mine, just to give you an idea. Let me share what success looks like for me. So it's a really short-term one, and in fact, one that you're all going to be really familiar with, because success for me today is delivering my Coaching to Shine model and workshop to you lovely people. So that might feel a little bit woolly to you, and perhaps you might think, surely success for me is for everyone to enjoy the workshop, be really engaged, give great feedback. Well, of course, that would be amazing. That would be great. But I am not in control of those things. And that's why I get to choose my own success scale. So when we consistently achieve the things that we set out to achieve, because we have control over them, that's when our confidence grows. And that enables us to do more and more amazing things. So another client of mine, an example for you, just to give you an example. One of my clients who was working with me, her goal, her success was to be promoted to a director by a certain date, which in itself is an amazing goal to have, and an amazing achievement. The only thing is that my client didn't have control over this goal. She wasn't in control of her appointing herself to director. That was in other people's control. But what she was in control of, though, was maximizing all of the opportunities to prepare, to learn, to develop herself, to be in the best possible position when she applied for the director's role. Okay, so hopefully that explains that little bit around that sort of control bit. So has everybody written something down or got something in their heads, and are you all in control in it? If you want to put a yes or a thumbs up in the chat, that would be fab. Okay. Right. Okay. So with each strand, there are some additional coaching questions to ask yourself. There are a few more questions in the PDF guide, which you can go through if and when you download it and you've got a bit more time. But for the purpose of today, I'm just going to share some of the key questions with you. So this is when we moved from like what the woolly to the nitty gritty, we get down to it. So what I'd like you to work out is how will you know when you've succeeded at whatever you are wanting to do. So you've written your criteria down. How will you know when you've succeeded? So it might be things that you will have done, or it might be how you feel. So what do you need to have done or have made or become to meet your success scale? So if you write down 2 or 3 things that are going to make your day, your project, your goal a success, you can add more at a later date when you have some time, if you like. I'll wait a couple of minutes, just so, or a minute or so, just so you've all got time to write something down. Okay, so to give you an idea, for me, I'll give you four things that I put down as my criteria for success. How will I know? Okay, so 1 was to know that I'd fully prepared for today's presentation to the best of my ability. Okay, 2 was feeling happy with the content, liking what I've done, believing in myself and my Coaching to Shine model. The 3rd one was updating today's presentation. Having done 2 before, I wanted to update it following some feedback and from my previous presentations. And the 4th one was to have an audience. And note here that I haven't specified the number of people in the audience. So 1 person is an audience, and I wouldn't be presenting if no one had turned up. So thankfully you all have, so thank you very much for that. So I haven't specified the number of people in the audience because I have no control over who books and who turns up. My success is just to have an audience. Now, in fact, I chatted about this with my own coach in one of our coaching sessions, and it was just before I did my second presentation, because when I presented at the summit, it was a big scale thing, and about 65 people turned up, which was way beyond my expectations. And with my coach, I said to her, what if only 2 or 3 people turn up to my second presentation? And she said to me, well, the fewer people that come, the more time that you're going to be able to spend with them, getting to know them, and the more impact that you're going to have. So to me, this is such a great way of measuring my success. So hopefully, has everyone written something down? Has anybody got any questions, burning questions before I move on? No burning questions, Joe, we can come to at the end?
Nothing at the moment.
Okay, that's great. That's all right. So what the next thing is, what might get in the way of your success? So, or could be a potential pitfall. So we all have stuff that consistently gets in the way of the stuff that we want to do. You know, the sort of thing. So that could be technology. It could be your email pings, your phone pings, interruptions from people. It could be family, friends, your boss, your colleagues. It could be meetings in your diary, unexpected demands of your time. So what might get in the way of your success? And also, how can you prepare for things? So this is all about pitfalls, about how you can prepare if things might fail. So failure is part of success. Without failure, we wouldn't know when we succeeded. It's where a great many things have come about. It's like the light bulb that Thomas Edison invented. He said, I have not failed. I have just found that 10,000 ways that won't work. Now, identifying failure might sound a little bit demotivating, but if we can prepare ourselves for when things might go wrong, we can prepare ourselves on how we might respond. And it's far better to be able to prepare that response when you're in that positive, resourceful mindset than when you're actually sat knee deep in failure with all that sort of like panic and disappointment setting in. And this is also about preempting failure. So we can't stop it happening sometimes. So if you think that might be your criteria for success, it probably isn't going to work. But what we can do is preempt it so we can perhaps fail a little bit better. So what you want to do next is write down 1 thing that might get in the way, or 1 thing that might fail, or you might be able to think of both. And then once you've written something down, how might you prepare for this? So is it around putting in steps to mitigate those things that get in your way? Or is it about preparing how you might respond to failure? So for me, what might have got in the way for me, what would be spending my time elsewhere and not preparing enough for my workshop. So I've had a really busy week last week. I've got a busy week this week, and I was really worried that I didn't have enough time to prepare. So to mitigate this, I scheduled blocks of time in my calendar throughout the week. I did a run through with Joe yesterday. I also did a bit of work on Sunday morning, which I don't normally do, but I wanted to make sure I prepared. I'd also made a list of all the improvements that I'd wanted to make from the last presentation. I wanted to have a microphone. I wanted to have a clock handy so I can keep myself on time. And now, in terms of failure, it could be that technology fails me and my presentation doesn't work. And I kind of shy away from tech. So when I collaborate with Kate in Rebel and Shine, I always let her take charge of the tech. It's one of my consistent fails. So if it breaks, I go into this hot sweat and I can't think straight. And if I hadn't prepared for this failing, I would then go into this blind panic. So I am all about the preparation. So how would I be able to preempt this and respond to it is by having written notes, which I have here in front of me. I have a paper copy of my presentation next to me, so that if the IT had failed, I would have been able, I don't know, hold them up or whatever. I don't know what I would have done. Now, I'll share something with you about technology that I shared with Joe just before I came on. I was in that flat spin and blind panic mode because I went down to go to the loo and put a bit of makeup on before I came to present, and I came back up and my laptop was completely blank, absolutely blank. I pressed every single button. I did a Control-Alt-Delete. I unplugged it. I restarted it. All the things that you do when things go wrong with technology. Now I have an old laptop, so I fired that up. But it was taking forever. So my friend, who I went to agriculture college all those many moons ago, lives in the same village as me. And I phoned her up and I said, my laptop's broken, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, I said, can I borrow yours? And so, bless her, she drove down on her JCB and dropped it off within the nick of time. So I set up Zoom, because she doesn't use Zoom. I've set up emails and I've set up Canva so I can present this. But I was admittedly in a bit of a blind panic. But actually now I'm here. I've got 3 laptops littered around the place. I'm feeling a little bit calmer. So hopefully if one doesn't work, the other one is. So that's kind of like how I preempt things. And I couldn't really stop any of this happening. But because I had some ideas in place of how I know I was going to sort of preempt it and mitigate it, it helped me to prepare better. So also, if no immediate potential failures come to mind, perhaps ask a trusted friend to give you their thoughts. So sometimes when we're really excited and energized about our sort of like amazing plan or project, we have a bit of a blind spot when it comes to failure, because all we can see is the opportunities of success. So think about asking a trusted friend if you can't see of any failure. I think it was Nelson Mandela that said something like, don't judge me by my successes, judge me by how many times I've fallen and got back up again, something like that. So hopefully you've all written something down. Okay, so I'm going to keep going because I'm conscious of time, so we can have hopefully some questions at the end. So before we go on to happiness, it's worth mentioning here not to confuse success with happiness. So they are different things. They have different variables. What I mean by that is you can have both, you can have none, or you can have one without the other. So you can be successful and happy, which is great. You can also be successful and not be happy. So some of the richest, most successful people are not happy. You can also not be successful, but be happy. So I know people that have not necessarily succeeded in what they wanted to achieve, but they have found happiness elsewhere. And you can, unfortunately, be neither successful nor happy, which is not the best place to be in. So therefore, it's important to find out what both mean to you in order for you to be your best self. So if one depends on the other, you risk the chance of missing them both. So by using the SHINE model, we look at how one can add to the other whilst being independent of each other. Okay, so now we go on to happiness. So how will achieving what you want, what this success is to you, make you happy? So this is where we're energized, where we're using our strengths, the things that bring us joy, the things that you're doing whilst in your flow. So I love the way Marcus Buckingham describes strengths. He's an all-round strengths expert, coach and author. So he describes strengths as any activity that energizes you, even if you're not good at it. So what we're saying here, if you're using your strengths in whatever you're doing, you're more likely to find joy, happiness, and fulfillment. So if you haven't already identified your strengths, a really good way of doing this is using time as your judge, your barometer. So if you take a minute to think of an activity that you really love doing, that really energizes you, and you might not even be that good at it, but just think about it. It could be work or personal. So have a think about how that fits into any sort of context. But for me, if I share one with you to give you an idea, mine is my love of learning. So that's one of my strengths. So that doesn't mean to say that I'm an amazing student or amazing learner, for that matter of fact. I am not. But what it means is that I'm fascinated by learning new stuff. So I just get lost in it. And I don't realize how much time I've spent doing it. So while I've been designing my Shine model, my Shine workshop, I have found so much information. So whether that's from podcasts, from other coaches, from coaching clients, from articles, from social media posts, you name it, I have found so much information. I've just soaked it all up like a sponge and not realized how much I've got, how much information and research I've got. So much so when I first did this, the first draft to try and put into an hour's workshop, well, you'd have been here for days. So if I use time as my gauge, with learning, I will find that I look forward to the activity of learning. Time speeds up when I'm doing it. And when it's over, I want to do it again. So those are the three variables, the three things to look out where you can use time as your gauge. So this is one, that love of learning is one of my strengths. So how cool is that? We get to do stuff that we love and it makes us happy. So it's a no-brainer. So on the flip side, Marcus describes weaknesses as any activity that weakens you, even if you're good at it. So if we use my example of technology here, I have already said that it's just not my thing. Now, that doesn't mean to say I can't do it. I mean, I've set up 2 laptops in the space of like 20 minutes. I was like tech guru. But I find that it does take me a long time to master something new. I get really frustrated when I can't work things out first time, and even more so when things go wrong. But I have to get to grips with technology because it's in so many aspects of my business. So the chances are I'm going to get better at it, but it doesn't mean to say that I'm ever going to love it. So if I look again and use time as a guide with technology, I put off doing it. It feels like it goes on forever. And when it's over, I feel completely exhausted. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So if I move on to some coaching questions for you. So when you're thinking about your strengths, list 2 or 3 of your top strengths, and then think about your project or your day or your goal and see how you might be able to bring more of those to that project, goal, or day. How are we doing, Joe? Okay, thumbs up, keep going. No questions?
Yeah, nothing else in the chat yet.
Fabulous. Okay. Right. So important. Why is it important to you? So what is it about what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to succeed at is so important to you? So what do you need to have, feel, or be to work at your best? This is often when we're in line with our values. So the things that are important to you. So when we're working in line with our values, we feel more confident, we're able to make better decisions, things just feel right. I'm sure all of you will have felt, you know, when you get that trigger, when something just feels a little bit out of kilter. I know when I was working in HR, I used to feel that because I often would be holding on to lots and lots of confidential information for whatever reason. And then someone might ask me something, ask me a question, and I wouldn't be able to divulge the full answer because I couldn't divulge that confidential information. So I had to hold stuff back. And I used to get this like kind of knot here. And that was that feeling of that my values of openness and honesty were out of sync. So quite often when there's this gap between your values and what you're doing, it becomes a space where sort of negativity and discomfort can creep in. But instead of that happening, what we do is use that space wisely to move towards more values-based decisions and actions. So that could be sort of asking yourself, how can I do this more in line with my values? How can I move closer to them? If I'm making this decision from a values point of view, what would that look like? So just like using our strengths to make us happy, when we're doing things in line with our values, we do our best work. We are being truly ourselves. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, if we can align our project, our goal, what we're trying to succeed at with our values, then we're far more likely to succeed at it and enjoy doing it. So for those of you who aren't familiar with your values, perhaps have not worked out what they are yet or want a bit of a refresh, I have a really easy way to describe them using a wheelbarrow. So all that early career in horticulture and agriculture has not gone to waste. So, okay, let me give you a couple of examples. If I was to say that I valued a regular income, so can I fit this into a wheelbarrow? Well, I know your wages are usually backed straight into your account, and then they disappear on bills before you can get your hands on them. But it's money at the end of the day. And yes, if I wanted to, I could fill a wheelbarrow with money. And I had to get the pigs in there somewhere as well. So if I want to find out why it's important to me, I would ask, what does this regular income, what does this money give me? So here I might answer, it gives me security, it gives me stability. So these are the values, the intangible things that you don't necessarily do or have. So if I give you another example, let's say I value my team, the people I work with. I don't actually do or have them, but they're tangible. They could fit in a wheelbarrow, depending on how big your team or your wheelbarrow are for that matter. But so I ask myself again, what is it that my team give me? Perhaps it's support, perhaps it's belonging. These are the values. Put a yes or a no, or hopefully that makes sense to you in terms of values if you're not familiar with those before. It'd be good to know if that makes sense, if that resonates with people. Is anyone able to pop a yes in the chat? We got yes, good, brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, fabulous. Okay, so if I give you then go to my Coaching to Shine workshop, some of my values are sharing. So I'm sharing this with you. I love sharing stuff. That's one of my values. Connection. So through sharing stuff, I'm connected to you through the wonders of technology, through the wonders of Zoom, and hopefully we might get to stay in touch going forward. And being inspired is another value. So I've been inspired by so many things, my clients, my learnings, my research, being here, which is what led me to create my Coaching to Shine model. So can you see how these values have been threaded through and are in alignment with what I've been doing? Okay, so some questions for yourself. So over to you. So if you think about your project, your goal, what you're trying to achieve, why is it important to you? So these are your values. So what are some of your values? And if you're finding it hard to label or identify them, ask yourself, can they fit in a wheelbarrow? And if yes, ask yourself, what do they give me? Okay. Okay, next step. So this is where the action comes in. So what are the next steps that you need to take to achieve this? So what do you need to do now? So for me, once I'd been in touch with Joe, and we'd agreed that I would present my Coaching to Shine workshop for HR Recruit, I had a number of things to do. So I had put a date in my calendar. I had to set aside time to go through feedback and update my presentation and do some prep. I had to spend a bit of time marketing through LinkedIn and with my network. I also asked for a bit of support from some of my coaching community, just to chat things through like a sounding board. I also needed to liaise and keep in touch with Joe. And in terms of resources and tech, I should have bought a new laptop, but what I did do was I splashed out and bought a new desk converter, because having done 2 workshops, I have found that I much prefer to stand when I'm presenting. So up until now, I've been using bits of furniture and balancing things on them, which was fine in the short term, but as a long term, I don't think that was going to keep me. And I just feel more grounded, more connected and more energized when I'm standing and I'm presenting. So if I was presenting to you all face to face, I wouldn't be sat in a chair. So it just made sense to me. So that's what I kind of done in terms of my next steps. So hopefully you get an idea on sort of actions and next steps that you can take with your own particular success. So if we go on to the coaching questions, what is one thing you can do to get started? So what support do you need? What resources do you need? What research do you need? Who do you need to speak to? Who could be best person to support you? And how much time do you need to set aside? So write something down. Writing down is the first step towards action. Give you a couple of seconds. I'm just going to have a quick drink. Okay, energy. So how much energy do you have for this? So this is all about how committed you are to what your project, your task is, what you want to succeed at. How much time do you have for it, and whether you're going to make it a priority or not. So Michael Bungay-Stanier, he is another very well-known coach and author. He talks about worthy goals. And if your rating is too low, you aren't really invested in them. So this is the final step to work out how hungry you are for whatever it is you've chosen to use the Coaching to Shine model for. So how much energy you have for it. So on your bits of paper next to you, or put it in your head, jot down a score out of 10 for the moment, and just keep it to yourself for the moment. Jot down your scores and just write down a number between 0 and 10. Okay, so if you wrote down a number anywhere under 8, I might suggest that it might not be that important to you, or it might not make you that happy. Is a 7 out of 10 really going to make you shine? So it could be that it's not a priority for you right now, or perhaps you have too little time, too much else on. So if you decide it is a worthy goal, then it's going to be worth rearranging stuff. So it's worth noting here, there's a distinction between I haven't got time and it's not the right time. So you can always find time for something that you're excited, enthusiastic, and energized about. If it isn't the right time, it's a message that you might want to put it on hold so you can give it your best shot at another time. But if your excuse for being below an 8 is you don't have the time, it might be that worth going back to the beginning of this sort of exercise, really scrutinizing if this is what you want to be spending your time and your energy on. And also, if you're going to be investing lots of energy into this, it's a good idea to start becoming aware of how you re-energize yourself and what gives you energy. So as with everything, we start off pretty energized and enthusiastic about stuff, but life and all that it throws at us completely depletes us from time to time. So if you're working on a long-time goal, there are definitely going to be tough times. It's going to be bumps in the road when you're going to need to pull on all of those energy resources. So you're going to want to keep them top right up. So for me, I am energized by running. Can't do it at the minute, got a dodgy knee, so I'm switching to cycling, but never mind. I like walking my dog Walter. That's really energizes me. It gets me out in the fresh air. Gardening, actually been anywhere in the fresh air, just been outside in the open space. It really opens my mind and to new ideas. I also get energized by listening to podcasts, avid podcast fan, and also just spending time with people that inspire me. So as I been going through my Coaching to Shine project, putting the workshop together and sharing all of this stuff, I've been building lots of little energy boosts into my day so that it keeps my energy levels topped up. So can you make a list of some of the things that energize you? And how can you build them into your day, your week, and your routine? I'll give you a minute to jot something down. Okay, that was great. That went down the wrong way. Hey ho. Right, back to your energy score out of 10. So I'm going to share my score with you. And what I'd like you to do, if you're happy to, is put yours in the chat, but hold off pressing return. Just hold off pressing return until I say go. So I'd like to just see them all fly in at once. So if everyone holds off pressing return, just pop it in, get ready to press return. Okay, so this is my energy score. Okay, so you didn't expect me to be anything below a 10 because it's my Coaching to Shine model for, and I am bound to be overexcited about it. So what would be fab now is I'm just going to open the chat and just press return. Tell me what your energy scores are. We got an 8, 9s, fab. Oh, there's a 5 there. 7, 6. Okay, 8. Okay, fabulous. Another 6, 8. Oh, thank you for sharing those for you. I don't know. They've gone past a bit too quick. There might be a bit of an average of maybe a 7 or an 8 coming along there. Let's hope so. Maybe we can go back and work on how we can get those energy scores a bit higher. Okay, thank you. I'm going to close that chat now. Okay, so oops, now I've opened that, I need to do that. Right, okay. So now you've got all this energy to do something that you want to succeed at. One of the first things to making something happen is writing it down, which you've done with your next steps. What makes it even more powerful is sharing it with others and then being accountable for what you've said you're going to do, what you're committing to. So I was working with a client, and one of the first things that we contracted for at the beginning of our coaching relationship was that she said she wanted me to hold her to account. And I said to her, well, how does that look like to you? What do you want me to do? And she was quite stumped. She'd recognized that she needed holding to account, but she didn't know hadn't thought about how that might happen. So it's really important to work out how you want to be held to account. So is that checking in regularly? Is it giving progress updates? So here's a couple of questions for you. So do you need someone to hold you to account? And if so, who's that going to be? Or are you happy to hold yourself to account? And if you're wanting to have an accountability partner, or even if you're holding yourself to account, start to think about how that might work. Okay. Okay, so as we've got the chat working, what would be really great is, as we've got 15 minutes, haven't we, Joe? We've got 15 minutes about that? Okay, fab. So what would be great if anyone's happy to, just to share in the chat what not everything you've written down, because that would take forever to type it out. Hopefully you've got loads of notes written down, but just share what your definition of success is. So that first sentence you wrote down, what you wanted to succeed at, so your goal or your project or what your day was going to be. Then share maybe one next step. So one action that you're going to do when you leave this workshop, this webinar today, what are you going to do? One action. And then maybe if you are holding yourself to account, or you've chosen an accountability partner. So maybe if anyone's brave enough to do that and share their definition of success, one next step they're going to do, and who's going to hold them to account. I'd love to see something come up in the chat. Who's going to be first to share? I'm going to pull the chat up here, see if I've got anything coming up. I'll give you a bit of time to type. Or if you don't want to share all of those things, maybe you can just want to share your definition of success or one next step. You don't have to share it all. Remember, if you share it, it's actually it's going to happen. Your colleague, well done, Jill. You're going to get your colleague to hold you to account. Yeah, they're great. I've only got my dog Walter. He's not very good at holding me to account. Next promotion, brilliant, Linda. Wow, great. New role. Oh, exciting stuff coming up. Join late. So my next step will be, oops, I missed that one. Definition finding different practical applications to standard topics, absence management, poor performance, finding new ways to motivate managers so they actually apply the knowledge and not just feel it's the same stuff. That's brilliant. That's great, Amy. Thank you. Emma was going through the questions in detail at a bit of a career decision point. Okay. Succeed at the next interview, the couple's dream job. Okay. So it's that success at that interview. So it's all around that preparation. So you're not in control of being appointed to whatever job you're going for, but what you are in control of is doing all of that prep and being in the best possible place to go in there and absolutely smash it. Okay, what was Kaylee? Have a year out traveling, studied to be an exec coach. Yay, Kaylee, you're joining the coaching crew. Okay, inquire about training course, enroll on webinars, find a coaching community, share and speak to the husband. Yeah, get him on board and get regular review. Fabulous. Start own consultancy. Fantastic. Pass my certificate exam at the beginning of next month. So yeah, that's brilliant. Oh, thank you, everyone. That's great. So that is my kind of coaching to shine model. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, I'd like to share some exciting news with you as well. So this is now available on an app to download. So it's hot off the press. It was only published by the App Store last week. So I can't quite believe I've gone and done something like this, given my reluctance to do all that technical stuff, because I've built it myself. And I'd love you to check it out. Basically, the app has got short videos of me going through each section, followed by tips on how to answer those focus and coaching questions. And that way, you'll always have like a little pocket-sized version of me on your phone to keep with you at all times, and you can revisit it over and over again. So there's more details on how to get that on the last slide. So thank you again for your input. I'd love to hear some thoughts. I think we've still got 10 minutes, so that's brilliant. I'm going to look at the chat again in a minute because I can see 2 more things have popped up. So I'd love to hear some thoughts on how you found this model, because those of you that have come into coaching a little bit new, or just with some idea how you found that model and whether it feels like it's something that you could work with. Also answer any questions you might have. And if you've enjoyed the session, I'd love it if you share it on social media and stuff like that. I'm doing another one of these in November, not through HR Recruit, but just through me. So do spread the word. And I've got a short feedback form, which I'll give you the link at the end, or Jo will she'll send out with the presentation. So I'm just going to pull the chat up again and see what we've got in terms of questions. Okay. So we've got a couple of theirs. Oh, I'm just going to go back to Selena. Being able to manage my time, complete everything I need, both personal and professional, plan and set boundaries. I did a little post on boundaries, Selena, today. Mine are often slipping. The thing with boundaries is getting clarity, really knowing what you're setting and why you want to do it. So it's working out the why you're setting it. So what is it? So one of my boundaries that I shared today is that on my phone, I don't have notifications for my work emails or LinkedIn, because it's just too tempting to dip into them after work hours. I can obviously go in and look on my own, which I do. So my boundaries do slip, but they're there in place. And the reason I do it, my why for doing that, is that one, I get to completely switch off. So that helps me actually really recharge my batteries. And also it makes me, be a better person for my husband, my family, and for myself. So boundaries are really important. So get clear on what your boundaries are. First step will be registering the company. Oh, brilliant. That's a good one. Oh, thank you, Rachel. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Oh, thanks, Maria. And Linda, I've got, can I coach upwards? And I'm trying to think, is that with a manager that is, so your manager or managers in a sort of different position yourself? I'm not quite sure if that's what you mean by coaching upwards. Might be able to get a bit of clarity. And yeah, you can coach any which way. Their questions. Coaching is being curious. There's something I talk about with coaching, is that we often, when with ourselves or with other people, we either approach something with criticism. So there's two ways of doing it. You can approach it through criticism. That's either criticizing yourself, or what have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? Or criticism of others, or what are they doing wrong? Or you can approach it from a curious point of view. Say, I wonder why I'm being like this. I wonder why I'm feeling like this. Or I wonder why my manager's behaving like this. So if we can approach anything from a curious point of view, is a really good start on coaching anybody. Approach it with curiosity rather than criticism, either of yourself or others. Hopefully that might help. It's just a really quick top tip. Great sessions, bite-sized chunks to get the the cogs turning. Oh, good. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Tonya. Model clear. Thank you. Great for you. It's brilliant. Oh, lovely. That's great. Thank you. Happiness in the coach, yeah, so important. So thank you, Kareem. This feels more holistic than some of the models you might have used in the past. Yes, grow, yeah. It looks at people. Well, I think, yeah, we've got, we don't buy into it. If it doesn't get us here, we're not going to do it. Okay, so what steps did you follow from HR to coach? Any helpful tip? Your journey and view on HR really resonates with me. So Kaylee, like I said, I was really fortunate. I've been part of some really good coaching workshops as part of an executive team in an organization, but that just got my bug. You can do it from anywhere. So what I would do is, I don't know if you've heard, I've trained with the In Good Company. So I don't know if you know In Good Company. They post a lot on LinkedIn. They've got Facebook groups. You can join their Facebook group, and you can get loads. And you don't have to be you don't even have to be training a trained coach or training to coach to be part of that Facebook group, but you can get loads and loads of information, insights, helpful tips to do that. I would also be really realistic. It's actually been, I left coaching, I left HR and thought, I'll train to be a coach and I'll just coach one-to-one. That doesn't happen. It's a long old journey, and it's even more squiggly than all the way I've got up to here. But what you do is, when you train to be a coach, you learn so much about yourself that actually your journey just evolves as you go around. There's an opportunity to have a catch up for an hour, Kaylee. I'll put the link in there, so we can always have a chat about that. Any idea? Linda Hill, I'm not quite sure. Okay, very much enjoyed. Okay, that's fabulous. So if anything else pops up, hopefully I've answered some of your questions. I'm just going to go to the last screen here. So I'm going to pop some detail. I might pop, actually. I'm going to try and pop some details in the chat. Let's see if this works. Says she, doing her technology. Right. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. So I've popped a whole load of stuff in the chat there. I haven't pressed return yet, so that might help. There we go. Told you I was absolutely pants at technology. Okay. So I've popped in the chat lots of different ways that you can get to know me a bit better. They're also on this, like if I just switch here, so you're going to get a copy of that. So you don't have to frantically try and pick any of them up. So they're there. And I think Joe's going to send them out with a copy of the presentation for those that request it, or I'm not quite sure how that works. So you can download my app, that little icon there. It's on my phone, which is very, also so many other things are on my phone, which is very exciting. It's on my phone here. So yeah, you can download this Coaching to Shine app. There's some links on the next page, or if you like that paper copy, just download for free copy of my Coaching to Shine PDF guide. There's a link for that, and then that's got some of those additional questions, and you can go through it in your own time. And if you want to book a complimentary one-to-one hour with me, there's a link there to just book some time in my calendar, and that's no what do you call it, what's the word, no commitment to do anything. I think that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, you can book that. Just have a chat with me, or go through what you've worked through on the Coaching to Shine. I'd love to go through it with you, because it all helps me. Your feedback helps me. So if there's things that getting stuck on the steps, that just helps me to make my guide even better. And if your organization, if this really resonates with you and you think, oh, my organization might like this might be quite good for them, let me know. I do this free, so let me know. I'm quite happy to have a chat with you about that. If you want me to do it with your organization, get in touch. I'm also running a pilot group program for HR group supervision. So the aim is, the pilot program is full now and I've got a waiting list, but the aim is to roll out further programs in January. So if you could, there's a link to the waiting list. You can join that, and hopefully we'll get those rolled out in January, because I think it's just something I know I would have really valued when I was in HR, is just having somebody to listeners that be a bit of a sounding board, somebody to give you a bit of support, and somebody to offer some suggestions. So that's kind of like my model for HR supervision. And if you're interested in Rebel and Shine, my collaboration, that's an HR leadership program that we're on our third cohort at the moment. So we've got our fourth cohort will start in January. So there's a link to that. And also, finally, I'd just love you to stay connected. So there's my email. Connect with me on LinkedIn if you're not already. Have a great day. Are there any final questions? Keep shining, everybody. What have we got here? Okay. Can't see what you popped in the chat. Okay, will it be on the slides? I can pop it in again, and I'll try it again. Oh no, hang on.
I can see it.
Oh, you can see it. It's in the chat, is it?
I've messaged you, say it'll be sent out anyway.
Okay. So have I finished on time? Yeah, a few minutes to go. Is there anything I've missed, Joe?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay.
I'll just do the close. So just like to say to everybody that I will send out some correspondence this afternoon for everyone that's signed up for the event, and I will put a post on LinkedIn. So if you can put a comment on the post to those of that you are on LinkedIn, then that would be really appreciated for myself and Sally. On the email as well, we also have a guild networking group. I know some of you are already members of it. I think we've got nearly 1,000 members now, and it's a really successful group for HR professionals in terms of networking and sharing ideas and asking questions for your colleagues. So there will be a link on there if you want to join up for that. But otherwise, I'd just like to say thanks very much to Sally for her time, and also everybody to listening in. Thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone. Lovely to meet you all, have you here.